Good evening. Welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program tonight, the armed forces do everything they humanly can to reach out to people stranded in the floods in Chennai. But with no food, no clean water and still relatively high levels of water, the situation in parts of the city remains desperate. But is there a silver lining? Will the rainfall taper off now? Will Chennai get a chance to resurrect itself? We have our reporters live across Chennai in just a few minutes from now, a city which has had its highest rainfall in 100 years. Also on the program, as people cough and wheeze their way through their daily lives in Delhi, the National Green Tribunal says enough is enough. They want to know just what the Delhi government intends to do to improve the quality of air in the national capital. Does the Aam Aadmi Party government have any solutions? This on a day when the BJP leader Maneka Gandhi seemed to contradict the government by suggesting that it's not enough to blame the West for global warming. Also coming up at 1:30 p.m, the angry Indian goddesses join Barkha Dutt in our studio and tell us why they are so angry. But first, our top story, the situation in Chennai. For the first time today, we were able to bring you clear footage of the extent of devastation in the city. There are thousands of people who are marooned, thousands of people who are stranded. My colleague Sudhir Ranjan Sen has the story.
Chennai is a picture of gloom, a vast mass of water, only a few houses stick out.
The sortie will go over the worst affected areas in Chennai and around. And it is after that that the air effort that the Indian Air Force has launched using its Cheetah, Chetaks, its Mi-17 helicopters and the C-17s and the C-130s will be directed to.
With water reaching up to the second story, boats are the only way out. The Army, Navy and the National Disaster Force are rushing in more boats. Those who are lucky are trying to make it to high ground on foot. High voltage lines damaged and much of them underwater. These distressing images indicate the enormity of the flooding. Thousands of people here are marooned. This is Chennai Airport. The central line is barely visible. Most of the airport is still underwater. It will be days before anything moves from here. Hundreds are stuck here. The Tambaram base, one of the few airfields around Chennai that is still operational. While loaded helicopters with relief make sortie after sortie dropping food material, stranded passengers are being flown to this airbase on helicopters from various locations, including the Chennai airport. The IAF is ferrying people to this base. Group of students at the SRM University who have been stuck here for the last several days because the airport has been shut are now being flown out towards Delhi. How many days are you stuck for?
3 days.
3 days. So you're happy to get out?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Nearly 200 people have been taken to safer locations today from Chennai. More are likely to follow. The Indian Air Force's only worry, the weather. With camera person Sachin Kumar in Chennai, Sudhir Ranjan Sen for NDTV.
My colleague Uma Sudhir joins us now from Moor Market. Uma, you know, the first real good piece of news is what you told us earlier on this afternoon, that at a certain time, at a certain place, you saw the sun. People have not seen the sun in Chennai for a couple of days now. Is this the first indicator that things can only get better from here on?
At least that is the hope, Vishnu, because it's not rained all day today after the heavy rains, in fact unprecedented 100-year record of rains that we had day before yesterday that flooded virtually every part of Chennai. While yes, Kotturpuram and other areas the water had started receding, several other areas water continues to be flooded, and one of the reasons why we are here in fact in Moor Market, which is right opposite the Commissioner's office and the central station in fact, is because inside there is absolutely absolutely no connectivity, and two, residents are very angry. They are saying despite 3 days of not being connected, no one has come to them to ask, and some of them in fact have walked across to us with their anger. நீங்க சொல்றீங்க அங்கெல்லாம் there is a lot of water அப்படினு சொல்றீங்க. யாரும் வரலங்க.
யாரும் வரல, எந்த கவுன்சிலரும் வரல, எந்த எம்எல்ஏவும் வரல, கார்ப்பரேஷன்காரங்களும் யாரும் வரல. நாங்க 25 நாளா இன்னைக்கு மழை பெய்ஞ்சின்னு இருக்குது, குடிக்க கூட தண்ணி இல்லாம இருக்கிறோம். 1/2 லிட்டர் பால் 50 ரூபாய் இன்னைக்கு ஒரு நாளைக்கு.
What he's saying is that it's been raining so heavily, the situation is so bad, half a liter of milk is selling for 50 rupees, and yet no one really came. No drinking water, more critically. That's what he's saying.
தண்ணி கூட இல்ல மேடம், நாங்க தண்ணி கூட இல்லாம தவிச்சு நிக்கிறோம்.
ரெண்டாவது ஒரு விஷயம் என்ன தெரியுமாங்க, இப்போ இருக்கிறது எங்களுக்கு அடிப்படை விஷயம் என்னன்னா, எங்க கிட்ட இருக்கிற அந்த மோர்மார்க் பகுதியில் இருக்கிற தண்ணி வந்து விலக்கப்படணும். ஒரு மனுஷனுடைய உயரம் வந்து 6 அடினா 5 அடி உயரத்துக்கு வந்து தண்ணி இருக்கு. இதுக்கு அடியில் வந்து நாங்கள் வந்து அங்கே பொழுப்பு நட்டுறோம். கிட்டத்தட்ட 300 பேர் கிட்டாங்க குடும்பம் வாசிக்கிறோம்.
So many families, livelihoods affected because in several areas still, Vishnu, the water is at least waist deep or knee deep, if not higher. Actually, that's what in fact, those areas are not even accessible for us because unless you have the boats, unless you have the relief, you cannot reach those areas. Everyone is saying, when will the water get pumped out? That, of course, is not perhaps in the hands of the authorities even here, because every water body, 1,000 water bodies in and around the 3 rivers that run across Chennai city, all of them are flooded and looking over full. Okay. But we are hoping that with no rains, really literally no rains today, the people, the private individuals also reaching out. In fact, just a few minutes ago, I got a call from the Navy which said that the INS Airavat, which has started from the Eastern Naval Command, has brought in the medicines and more relief supplies. There are more sorties going to happen. So the reach out will begin to happen on a bigger scale also, so that all those areas where people are marooned, in fact, can also be reached out to. Okay. You are talking about the fact that you feel very happy that so many people from Chennai are reaching out. That is one big thing, even though, of course, the scale of the demand for help is so huge that obviously everyone is angry about it.
Yes, I keep checking my Facebook posts and people literally thrash Chennai on this natural calamity. They say Chennai is not fit to be the capital of Tamil Nadu, and many say that Chennai is not a place for living. But then, as far as I see,
you think many things have changed now that people have come forward to help each other?
Yes, NGOs, student volunteers, and even government agencies have come forward, and they are literally supplying essentials for the needies. This is something that we have to reckon with, and Chennai is
facing difficulties.
Chennai is united. Natural calamities like this makes the humane side of life more visible.
Uma, he makes a really important point about just how united people in Chennai actually have been. Uma, that's a remarkable story by itself, how social media has played out, how people have come together. They've opened up their doors. It's a spirit of collaboration that really defines the spirit of this city. It is absolutely incredible. Tejas Mehta also joins us. He's in Mylapore. Tejas, you were traveling with the Indian Army now. Throughout the day, I was seeing some of your reports. How desperate is it now for people who haven't had clean drinking water, who haven't had enough food, and who've got children and who remain stranded? How desperate is their condition now?
Well, taking forward from what Uma and the other gentleman were saying, much more actually needs to be done, because wherever we go, it's either the army or the NDRF or the Navy which is really present there. We haven't really seen the presence of the administration almost anywhere except for a few sparse glimpses of policemen who have propped themselves up only for policing and nothing really else. And that's really the problem, because everywhere you go, especially in low-lying areas, Vishnu, I've covered the entire stretch of about at least 10 to 11 kilometers of the Chennai bypass road, which starts somewhere from Porur and goes all the way up to Tambram. And the entire stretch almost is filled with water at this point of time, gushing really out. Yes, it is receding, but at the pace it's receding, it's going to take at least 2 to 3 days more.
Just what I was asking you very specifically,
also, one big problem
are people
really
running out of food now? They may physically be safe if they are in higher buildings. Those who are in lower buildings may have been evacuated. But those in higher buildings will also be suffering. They don't have electricity, so communication cell phones would have gone. Food would have run out, water would have run out. They have children, the elderly. What are they saying? What are these people now saying?
Well, yes, absolutely. Today we are the defense colony, which is largely a posh area, and people did say that we ran out of food. There was no water. They were asking biscuits from us. We are going on the whole rescue operation. They are saying, can the helicopters drop some biscuits on our house? These are homes. These are people living in bungalows there. But at the same time, when you're going to various, slum or, low-lying areas where the not-so-affluent really live, people were on the roof, they were having, they were least bothered about what's happening. So different scenarios they're watching here, but what the administration needs to do is really act quickly. Epidemic is a huge problem, and of course, the water has to recede far more quickly. They can't do about that, but of course, because of the fact that water is coming down from various reservoirs.
Yep. Tejas, thank you very much. And Uma, thank you very much as well. We need to quickly move on. We cannot keep blaming the West for climate change. That's what the Minister Maneka Gandhi said today. India is one of the biggest polluters, and let's accept that reality.
Yes, it's a question of putting the blame always on, the West did it, the West did. Wait, they may have done it 100 years ago. India is one of the main players in destroying the climate. We are the largest producers, we, China, Brazil, of methane, and yet we don't even discuss methane. Coal, animals, and rice. These are the three reasons for methane. And methane is 26 times more powerful than carbon dioxide in creating climate change.
Then how do we say that we are just 6% of the emission and we need more space to grow?
No, it's rubbish. We said that when we were doing the Montreal Protocol. We've been saying that for 50 years. And in the meantime, we just go on and on and on. No, India is one of the major
parliamentary
polluters.
Awareness. You see, for example, today you have got the vehicle of the finance minister standing here. We have switched from petrol to diesel, which is a dirty fuel.
It's not petrol, diesel, dirty fuels, clean fuels. It's really look at the mota things that you can not do. Concentrate mainly on methane. Don't think that by river linking, you can actually go and solve a problem of less water, more water. You can't do it. You have to clean up your rivers. The Swachh Bharat is a very, very good initiative to begin with, but it needs to be implemented, which it probably will be. But more than that, we need to have a mission now for planting 1 billion trees a month. Everybody should be out planting trees.
All right, it's an interesting set of remarks from Maneka Gandhi, and in a sense seems to contradict what India has been speaking about at the Paris Climate Change Conference, where India has been arguing that the West has to be blamed for their share of greenhouse gases, and that developing countries like India need their time to develop before we are taking action against our own polluters. While we will be discussing the situation in Delhi today on a day in which the Green Tribunal of the Supreme Court has said that the Delhi government needs to get its act together, it's interesting that Maneka Gandhi has actually said this, because in a sense it's also part of the larger problem that Delhi faces. But as far as Delhi specifically is concerned, we're joined by Satyendra Jain, the Health Minister of Delhi, Anumita Roy Chaudhary, the Executive Director for the Centre for Science and Environment with us, Dr. Vivek Nangia, the Director of Pulmonology at Fortis Hospital, and Dr. Radha Kumar, the author, with us as well. Anumita, if I can just come to you first. It was very interesting what Maneka Gandhi had to say. Would you not agree that it's time for us to start blaming ourselves when it comes to pollution? Yes, we may have suffered. Yes, the West may be polluting more. But what we have in our country in terms of carbon emissions is abysmal.
We have to make a distinction here. What Maneka Gandhi is talking about is greenhouse gas emissions directly linked with your energy consumption needed for your development. And that's where we have, that discussion is very different. What we're talking about in Delhi today is about the toxic pollutants that has just smogged the entire environment and with very serious public health impact. And that's what we'll really have to deal with. If any other cause was responsible for 1 death per hour, as air pollution is in Delhi, it would have been a state of emergency already. And that's what we really need to keep in mind today for this city, and the kind of levels that we are seeing from the data that is coming from Central Pollution Control Board and Delhi Pollution Control Committee. This winter, levels have already galloped and increased so dramatically. Since October, we have seen already 7 times increase. And this is happening in last month in October. only 3% of the days had pollution levels which is officially classified as severe. But in November, it's already 73%.
No, I know that, Anumita, and we'll discuss that in a moment, but I want you to get a comment on Maneka Gandhi's remarks. And I know she's speaking about the macro level, but isn't it interesting that she should choose to contradict the government? It seems a contradiction of our position at the Paris Climate Change Summit.
So, well, Maneka Gandhi is certainly talking about a pollutant of a basket of greenhouse gas emissions, which we call is the survival emissions. It's linked with our paddy cultivation, with our livestock, and that is a greenhouse gas emission. But we need to keep in mind when we're discussing this at the global level, then the West, who has already used up the carbon space pretty dramatically and a lot more and very disproportionately, then they have to give space to us. So which means the West will still have to undertake huge cuts in emissions so that we get the space. Now, all of us will have to take action, but we still need a much stronger commitment from the West so that we have the ecological space to grow and also space out our action to be able to make our commitments towards the climate change.
All right, let's just focus now on the situation in Delhi. Today was another day where we had severe air quality readouts. It's usually either severe or very poor across Delhi. Satyendra Jain, Health Minister of Delhi, sir, today the Green Court hit out at the government yesterday, basically asking, are you serious about tackling pollution? So what exactly are you going to do in a finite period of time? Because it seems to be getting worse every day.
देखिएगा दिल्ली का जो पोल्यूशन का है ना, पोल्यूशन लेवल ऑलरेडी बहुत हाई है और आज से नहीं पिछले कई सालों से है. अभी हम लोग अगर कहें कि आज पोल्यूशन को हम ठीक कर देंगे या 3 दिन में ठीक कर देंगे, मुझे नहीं लगता ऐसा पॉसिबल हमें लग रहा है. बट दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट अपनी तरफ से बहुत सीरियस है. जितनी भी चीज़ें जो पोल्यूशन के मेजर सोर्सेज क्या हैं, एक तो व्हीकुलर पोल्यूशन है. व्हीकल पोल्यूशन का तरीका ये है कि हम पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट को अच्छा करेंगे, कारें सड़कों से हटेंगी, कम होंगी, तभी पोल्यूशन कम हो सकता है. अदरवाइज हम जितना भी कहें कि कल से हमने गाड़ियां बंद कर दी तो लोग कहेंगे कैसे जाएंगे, पॉसिबल नहीं है. तो उसके लिए दिल्ली सरकार ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्टेशन पे बहुत ध्यान लगा रही है. हम बसेस को बढ़ा रहे हैं. मेट्रो के जो नया फेस है उसके बाद उसको लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी के लिए वी आर मेकिंग बस फुटपाथ वगैरह बना रहे हैं ताकि लोग पैदल चल सकें, पैदल जा सकें. इवन साइकिलिंग के लिए ट्रैक बनाने की तैयारी कर रहे हैं. और दिल्ली की सड़कों को रीडिजाइन करने की सोच रहे हैं हम लोग कि सारी सड़कों को ठीक से किया जाए ताकि लोग पैदल चल सकें और साइकिल चला सकें.
सत्येंद्र जी, ये चीज हम 1000 बार सुन चुके हैं. 10 साल से ये बात सुन रहे हैं हम. तो बात सवाल ये है कि आपका सरकार ये कह सकता है कि लेट अस बैन द सेल ऑफ कार्स इन दिल्ली. आपके पास ये पॉलिटिकल विल है? किसी सरकार के पास ये पॉलिटिकल विल है?
देखिएगा सर, ऐसा है कि बिना ऑप्शन दिए आप भी अगर गाड़ी चलाते हैं तो दिल्ली के अंदर आप एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जा रहे हैं तो वहां पे पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट नहीं है तो आप कैसे बंद कर सकते हैं? 10,000 बसेस चाहिए दिल्ली में. आप ये बताइए
10,000 बसेस दिल्ली में जो चाहिए वो कब तक आप चालू करेंगे?
सर, आपने टेंडर देखे होंगे, हमारे टेंडर निकलने स्टार्ट हो चुके हैं. वी आर ऑलरेडी टेंडर्ड और अगले 6-7 महीने में 4-4,500 बसेस हमारी सड़कों पे आ जाएंगी. दे आर ऑलरेडी प्लान्ड और उनकी टेंडरिंग हो चुकी है. हम उसमें प्रोसेस में ऑलरेडी हैं. इसके साथ साथ क्या होता है कि दिल्ली की सड़कों पर जो मिट्टी है, जो धूल है, वो टायर से उड़ती रहती है. उसके लिए भी हम मैकेनिकल क्लीनिंग के लिए अगले हफ्ते या 10 दिन के अंदर टेंडरिंग हो जाएगी. दिल्ली के अंदर सफाई करने की जिम्मेदारी एमसीडी की है. फिर भी दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट, क्योंकि पॉल्यूशन को, मिट्टी को हमने अगर झाड़ू से इधर से उधर करते रहते हैं वो उड़ता रहता है, तब भी हमने अपने इनिशिएटिव लिया है कि इसको हम साफ करेंगे जितना पॉल्यूशन कम हो सकता है.
It's actually true. It's a simple issue which has been happening for time immemorial. When streets are closed manually, the dust just goes from one place to the other. The pollution level remains the same. Hopefully, there will be a simple solution to that. Dr. Radha Kumar, it's already too late for you. You don't think things are going to change in Delhi.
Sir,
you have chosen Dr. Radha Kumar. Just एक minute, sir. Dr. Radha Kumar, you have chosen to actually leave Delhi. You feel it's safer outside.
Vishnu, I left in July. I've been coming back every month, and I can tell you that each time I've come, I've fallen ill. I'm ill within a day. I came on the 28th, I was ill on the 29th. By the way, I should point out to you that you're not helping me either because I'm sitting on a roadside talking to your cameras. So if we're talking about how do you help people's health, each one of us has to take a responsibility. Now, having said that, I am astounded at how rapidly the pollution has increased in Delhi. And I do believe, that is to say, within the last 6 months. And there is no doubt at all that the Delhi government has a great deal to answer for. And I'm very sorry, but this business of, jharus and dust is really nothing to do with the level of pollution there is here. And if that's what the Health Minister of Delhi has to say, then he better get a few experts to advise him. And he's got plenty of good experts in this city.
Okay. Satyendra Jain, sir, let me ask you this. Is it time for us to shut down schools and offices on days when we cross 500?
आपको ना सर मैं देखो देखिए दो तरीके होते हैं, एक तो नीड है, दूसरा क्या है अगर हमारे को प्लान
नहीं सत्येंद्र जी ये बताइए स्कूलों को बंद करना चाहिए, ये 500 मार्क जब पहुंचता है सीवियर एयर क्वालिटी होता है तो स्कूलों और ऑफिसों को बंद करना चाहिए.
I am not able to hear.
Should you shut down offices and schools if pollution level crosses 500 or even lower?
देखिए मेरा पर्सनल व्यू अगर मानेंगे तो मैं चाहूंगा जरूर बंद करना चाहिए एक बारी. तो लोगों को सेंसिटिव बिल्कुल नहीं है, लोगों के लिए प्रायोरिटीज अलग हैं. दिल्ली के लोगों से आप बात करके देखिए, सर्वे करके देखिएगा, पॉल्यूशन की कोई बात ही नहीं करता है.
तो आप
और मैं एनडीटीवी को धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा कि जिन्होंने ये स्टार्ट किया है.
अगर एक हेल्थ हैजर्ड है तो प्लीज बंद कीजिए.
ये बात बताएं कि आप क्या कर रहे हैं और लोगों पे मत ब्लेम कीजिए.
सत्येंद्र जी, why don't you shut down schools? If you
imagine, you cannot cannot close down schools.
Sir, if you
cannot deny
if you believe that schools should be
you
shut
must
down,
take the right
why don't you enact your own beliefs, sir?
आप लोग दो लोग इकट्ठे बोल रहे हैं, मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा क्या कह रहे हैं.
नहीं, हम सिर्फ यही पूछ रहे हैं सर, अगर आप समझते हैं कि स्कूलों को बंद करना चाहिए तो आप इसको इन्फोर्स क्यों नहीं करते?
देखिएगा मैं एक चीज बताऊं आपको, दो चीजें होती हैं. एक होती है कि आपने चलो 2 दिन के लिए हम बंद भी कर देंगे या 4 दिन के लिए बंद कर देंगे, दैट इज ओनली फॉर मेक पीपल अवेयर, उनको सेंसिटाइज करने के लिए. उससे इफेक्ट पड़ेगा मैं नहीं मानता. दिल्ली की पॉल्यूशन लेवल इतना ज्यादा खराब है कि 365 दिन में से 300 दिन तो खराब है. अब 300 दिन तक हम क्या क्या बंद करेंगे? अगर या तो रहने लायक आप कहें ना दिल्ली की हवा ऐसी है, उसको हमें ठीक करने का सोचना पड़ेगा. जो मेजर्स हम ले रहे हैं, दिल्ली की यमुना खराब है, यमुना का पानी खराब हो चुका है, उसको ठीक करने की तैयारी चल रही है. हमारा प्लान है कि अगले 2 साल में यमुना को किसी भी तरीके से साफ किया जाए, उसके अंदर जितने भी नाले उसके अंदर मिल रहे हैं उसको बंद किया जाए. उसके लिए हम तैयारी कर रहे हैं सारी. इसके अलावा मैंने कहा सड़कों को क्लीन करने के लिए, अगर आप ये कहेंगे अभी तक क्यों नहीं हो गया, 20 साल से क्यों नहीं हुआ है, ठीक है. अगर मैं ब्लेम गेम में जाऊंगा कि 20 साल वालों ने करना चाहिए था, बट वी आर ट्राइंग अवर बेस्ट. हम पॉल्यूशन हमारे लिए उतना ही सीरियस है जितना बाकी कोई भी चीज हो सकती है. दिल्ली के अंदर पॉल्यूशन अलार्मिंग लेवल के ऊपर है और ये लोगों को समझना पड़ेगा कि अगर हर रोज पॉल्यूशन की बात करेंगे तभी पॉल्यूशन खत्म होगा, अदरवाइज नहीं होगा. लोगों को इसके लिए कुछ ना कुछ सेक्रीफाइस भी करना पड़ेगा. आज लोग अपने कंफर्ट को, अब गाड़ी है तो हो सकता है अगर गाड़ी के अलावा छोड़ के कहीं हफ्ते में 1 दिन भी एक ट्रिप लगा लीजिएगा तो कितना फर्क पड़ता है आपको.
5% उसके लिए बसेस चाहिए सर. अब 4,500 बसेस आप 6 महीने लगेंगे ना, आपने बताया 6 महीने लगेंगे. उसको ड्राइवर्स भी चाहिए, उसके बाद हमने उसके अलावा और 6,000 बसेस भी चाहिए होंगे. So, sir, it is a matter of time. These decisions should have been taken earlier on. You have been in power now for a while. Why are we waiting 6 months for the first installment of additional buses to come?
Sir, इसको प्रोसेस में it takes some time. अगर आपको भी बताया जाए ना, इसको सारे प्रोसेस के अंदर 6 महीने लगे हैं. 6 महीने के अंदर टेंडरिंग हुई है, अगले 6-7 महीने में आ जाएंगे. अगर हम ये कहें कि हमने पहले से क्यों नहीं कर लिया था, आने से पहले तो पॉसिबल नहीं.
But there is always the system, there is always the bureaucracy that seems to come in the way. Dr. Vivek Nangia, is it the worst that you have seen this year as compared to the last few years? Dr. Nangia.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. This time the pollution levels have been really very bad, and that is actually resulting in a very high number of patients turning up these days in the OPDs, which was not the case earlier. And not just that, people who are developing problems because of pollution like cough, cold, breathlessness, their diseases are becoming more and more incessant and difficult to treat. You know, they are more refractory to treatment now. So somebody who was an asthmatic or who would have a cold earlier would settle down in 3-4 days time. But now they take about weeks to months even to settle down. So this is a very common scenario that we are facing these days.
Dr. Nangia, is it your
And it is not
professional
just the
opinion?
respiratory illnesses.
Doctor, is it your professional opinion that on days children should be told not to go to school, perhaps offices should be shut down as well? Is it safer to breathe the air inside our homes than outside? Because that in itself is a debate.
So there are 2 or 3 issues that you've raised here. One is the professional opinion about whether the schools and the offices should be shut down or not. So if I was to answer that theoretically, what the literature recommends is, there are like cutoff levels. So like up till 50 is considered to be safe, 50 to 100, some people may have a problem. 100 to 150 is the time where people who are in the high risk group, like those suffering with respiratory illnesses, heart diseases, those suffering with diabetes, females who are pregnant, the children and the elders. This is the high risk group. So between 100 and 150, it is this high risk group which is expected to have some problem that they may develop, while all others would not have any problem. Between 150 and 200, what is recommended is that the high risk group should reduce their outdoor activities as much as they can. They should not indulge into very strenuous kind of exercises outside, while the normal people can continue with their exercises. More than 200 to 300, between that level, it is the high risk group should not move out at all, whereas, or at least reduce it as much as they can, while the usual population will have to cut down on their outdoor activities. And when the pollution level crosses more than 300,
yes,
the air quality index, when it crosses 300, then everybody is actually supposed to reduce their physical activity outdoors. So no strenuous activities, no outdoor games, nothing of that sort at all. So this is what the recommendation is.
All right. Satyendra sir, let me ask you one final question. We are going out of town. Why doesn't the government recommend the use of masks? Why don't you subsidize the sale of masks in Delhi? Isn't it time that people get that basic protection? सत्येंद्र जी,
देखिए मास्क का जो आपने बताया, हाँ जी, जो मास्क के लिए आप बता रहे हैं ना, देखिएगा अभी ओवरऑल जो ना मैक्रो लेवल पे सब कुछ खराब है. आप इंडोर की बात करें, इंडोर एयर क्वालिटी भी बिल्कुल खराब हो चुकी है. अब दिल्ली के अंदर आप सोच रहे हैं आउटडोर एयर क्वालिटी खराब है, आउटडोर के साथ साथ इंडोर भी खराब है. अब इसमें होने वाला क्या कि हम कहेंगे मास्क लगा लीजिए, मास्क के साथ भी डॉक्टर से बात हुई है, वो भी इतना प्रोटेक्शन दे नहीं रहा है, उसको भी ठीक से यूज करना नहीं लोगों को आ पा रहा है. या तो हाई क्वालिटी मास्क होना चाहिए, N95 हो या कोई हो.
आउटडोर के लिए कम से कम तो कुछ प्रोटेक्शन होगा सर.
The masks that are recommended are the N95 masks with a double strap, which should be used by all people
N95
who are being subjected to pollution.
N95 मास्क, हाँ वो that is costly, सबके लिए मुश्किल है इसको सभी लोग.
Mask cannot be part of the government's action. Mask is a personal protection and decision that you take after consulting the physician. Because those who are vulnerable, have lung problems, heart problems, cannot even use the mask for a prolonged period because it's going to impair their oxygen intake. So what is more important today is to understand that while we need the health advisory to go out and for people to act, but simultaneously government requires pollution emergency action to bring down the pollution, the peak levels. So the reason why we are saying that the school should be shut down, at least the primary school, it means that the children who are most vulnerable, their intake, the volume of intake of air is so high that the more pollution goes in and the formative lungs get impaired. So you need to ensure that they don't lead a very active life when the levels are really very severe. So either you do that or you ensure clean air for them. And for that today the government actually requires to take emergency action like Beijing does, like London do. I mean, what do? They basically reduce the number of vehicles on the road. They intensify public transport services. It's just not the number of buses. Today they have buses, metro, autos. But where is the plan to ensure that if you're asking the cars to go off the road, that they will ensure certain number of trips during the peak hour and with regularity and frequency so that all of us can get reliable service. Now that is the plan that should have been placed before the onset of the winter. Now therefore what we will really ask them to do is to come up with the emergency action plan and simultaneously have a system to scale up public transport system, and the direct restraint measures where you disincentivize the use of car, make it more expensive to use an older car in Delhi.
Cars, ultimately that has to go hand in hand with the development of public transportation. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. It is a critical situation in the national capital. Hopefully things will get better soon, but unfortunately at this stage we're already into December, not enough public transportation, and these levels, they just seem to be getting worse. We're going to take a short break. Up after that, the angry Indian goddesses join Barkha Dutt in our studio and tell us why they are so angry.